die. I told her before you did. Yeah. I didn't. Oh my gosh, I thought it took me so long to get to. I felt laughing too hard. I was like, what did I just say?
She just wants you to get out.
That was funny.
Don't push it now.
Good.
It's on wheels. You just feel it come today. Good. Yeah.
For sure. I was just waiting because I hadn't said he was just go. Okay, good.
Okay, utility service board meeting will come to order. We'll take a roll call. Mark? Here. Stan? Here. Jen?
Here.
Carla?
President.
And I'm here, so everybody's here. Alicia, do you have anything?
Not for this meeting, no.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot to Sorry.
Mark? You give your spiel.
I forgot to move the podium, Mark, sorry.
That's all right.
I know
This one? Yeah, well,
Oh,
that's, Alicia's this one.
oh yeah, that one. Oh yeah, make sure Alicia gets hers. She likes to be heard.
Okay, so you all have a copy of my report. The first item is the sampling stations at the October board meeting. We noted that they only gave us a price for 3 of them. We needed it for 4. Mark Burmester is hoping that we could get a special price break on 4 instead of 3, and we did not.
Bravo.
Yeah. So the price, they're still $1,500 a piece, and we do need 4 of them. And then there's a $180 pump that comes along with that for pumping them out in the wintertime so that they don't freeze up. I did go see one of these installed over in Williamsport and spoke to that water operator there. That was the nearest one I could visit. And he's very happy with it. They have 8 or 9 of them in Williamsport for the very purpose that we're wanting or needing to get them. They are not intrusive at all. It's a 6-inch square box coming up to the ground. It's probably 30 inches tall. So it's not an eyesore, put it that way. It all closes up, and you would think it was maybe a phone box, the old phone boxes. So my request is that we do go ahead and purchase those. Although it will be spring before we can get a contractor to install them, my concern is that between now and spring there will be a price increase. So they are available through EJP, a company that we purchased from previously. So I do not have a price on installation from any contractors yet. I have 2 that said that they would be interested in it, but they haven't gotten to. I know that they were probably just trying to finish up their 2022 projects before they thought about anything besides that.
But this isn't really an option, right? I mean, we need them
Yes,
so that we
yeah,
can be compliant.
no, yes, yeah. They're necessary. It's not a convenience. It's necessary. It's either that or we do water samples at people's private residences or businesses.
We'll have Bridget put 4 gold stars a month on the bill, and if you get a gold star, Mark can
It's
come to your
your
house.
turn. And you know what? There would be we could easily find people who would do that, but it just becomes an inconvenience. With all good intentions, it just doesn't work out well.
Would these go like near a fire hydrant or?
No, and that's another thing. We'll have to figure out where we want them, but They are tapped right directly into the main, so it's wherever we want to put them at. And we, of course, we want to put them probably, it'll be a north, south, east, west orientation, but we'd want to put them where they're probably not in a residential yard. We can find spots for that.
So you said something about pumping them out in the winter.
Yes, because they don't back drain like a yard hydrant does. So there's a vacuum pump that comes with it, and you just draw the water out of it.
So you have to, you're gonna be using these every day though.
Yes.
So you have to do that as well?
If it's below 20 degrees, it's kind of the benchmark they use. If it's under 20 degrees out, you need to drain it.
So does each one have its own pump?
No, it's a portable pump you carry around with you. Yeah.
Was it battery operated or,
No, it's just a hand vacuum pump.
hand vacuum?
Yes. Mhm.
So it's,
And I talked to the guy at Williamsport, and he said he used a brake bleeder from his shop, which I don't know exactly what he was talking about there, but he said it worked really well. And I said, well, we'll probably just go ahead and get the part that comes with it.
Yeah, it's only $180.
Yeah.
Turkey days.
A giant straw?
That would take a while.
No, no.
So my request is that you do approve and give me permission to purchase these.
If they gotta be hooked into the main, that's
Yeah.
probably gonna cost some money.
It will. I would suspect that each one would be a minimum of $2,000 each to install. So you have to tap the main. You'd also want to put some kind of valve between that tap and these, so in case these ever did freeze up, you could isolate it and shut it off. Which we had, a drawing comes with it on how it's supposed to be installed. But yes, it would require a 1-inch tap at the main that it's connecting to.
I would move to approve purchasing 4 of these sampling stations for $1,500 each and a $180 pump from EJP.
I'll second it.
Here we got a motion by Jim to buy 4 of these pumps for the sampling stations for plus $1,500 each plus $180 for the pump. Any discussion on it from the public?
When, these are guaranteed, right, or warranted?
They are as far as operation, but of course they wouldn't be warranted against freezing or run over, yes.
But is that like when we install them? Like if we buy them now, we don't install them for 8 months. Did we
No.
waste 8 months of
No.
guarantees?
No.
Okay, that's good.
All right, any other comments, public? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. Mark?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes,
Carla?
yes.
And I vote yes, passes 5-0.
The next item I have is valve markers for South Dayton Road, so that's from Wesleyan south. If you go down through there, there's tubiphores that are painted blue that the contractor put in to mark where the water valves are along there, so that when the farmer's mowing or has equipment in and out of his fields, he doesn't run over these. I would like to put something more identifying what it is, and a town marker per se, that you might have seen them, maybe not, but they're just markers that say water valve location, something like that, rather than these tubiphores. They're just, it's kind of the next step. We would need 6 of them. I don't have prices on them, I just kind of want to explain to you what I'm thinking there. So if you ever go down through there, just look, you'll see the tubiphore sticking up out there, but we need to kind of close that out per se. And put
They
those
would be
markers in.
similar to like gas lines
Yes.
or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Anywhere, and they will have their color on them versus, say, the orange for the,
Phone or whatever,
Yeah.
yeah. These will be blue for water, just so that, and it'll actually have some kind of writing on it.
like
Says water
PVC
valve.
line or something, or
Made of PVC, yes. Yeah. I thought it'd be better than these
So they're
tubiphores.
just on the west side,
There's one on the east side where
crossover.
yes, where that valve is for that 10 acres. Okay. And I'll get a price. I'm not buying them today, so I'll just get a price on them so that way you'll know what I'm talking about when I bring them up at the next meeting. IBM testing. So I received a letter last week,
Oh, boy.
and it says the the Indiana Department of Environmental Management Drinking Water Branch is requiring all municipal community water systems to test for PAFS. And PAFS is polyfluoroalkyl substances. What that is let me write down. So it is found most commonly at sites where fire departments use foam to fight fires, and it has been determined to be a cancer-causing chemical. I don't know how prevalent it is, but apparently it's a concern. So all public water systems are required to test for it. We would collect two, one at the point of entry out on Haggerty, and then one here in town. It says this will be done at no cost to the town. However, they should be collected prior to December 7th. So do I believe that we're going to find this in the water? No, but I think it's just a safeguard, and at least it's at no cost to the town, and it's a vote of confidence for the residents that it's not in the drinking water. Because you probably, if you haven't already, you'll start hearing about it on the news sometime that it's a concern. So that's something we're going to be doing. Like I said, there's no cost to the town, but that's what's required by the state. So I'll take care of getting the sampling bottle or the sampling kits. Actually, it says they were shipped out today, so I should get them this week. And of course, it doesn't matter to them when it's collected. They do say they would prefer it at the start of the week so that you don't ship it out on a Friday and it sits for a couple of days in UPS or whatever. But I'll take care of that part of it. This is just some directions on 250 milliliter samples. Next item is Logansport. So, we do the water audit every other year. And part of that is with the Indiana Finance Authority. You have to attend one regional utility meeting. The purpose of that is so you have a group of communities. So if one community is having trouble, they get to know other ones who may be able to help you out, is what it is. But it's required that someone from the town attends this once a year. The closest one I could find between now and December 31st was Logansport. It's Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock. So I'll be in town till noon on Wednesday, and then I'll head to Williamsport and be there the rest of the day. Nothing under wastewater. Streets, so the current community crossing contract. I believe you have the most recent bill, Jen?
We did get one, yes.
Okay, all right. For asphalt, for all the asphalt work.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll still get one more billing before we can close it out, and that will be for the painting. I did see that they painted the center line on Dayton Road Friday. So, not that we actually don't have to close out our project until 2024. But of course we want to. There's no need to sit on any paperwork. So, but that brings me to the next topic, which is the 2023 Community Crossing Grants. And
Mark, before you get into that on that
Yes.
painting,
yes,
did you get a cost for down here?
I wasn't here Friday. Did you? I was hoping you spoke to him.
No, I didn't even see him. I saw
You
the
didn't?
stripes.
I know it's 79 cents a foot.
Yeah.
I do know that.
On Dayton Road South, everybody, and when the railroad tracks, when you head down to Shady Lane, the stripes are 10 inches that way west and where there's a center line. They didn't mark them right. That's why along in front of the general store, there's a rut about this deep all along there. And if you look at it, it's cracking off all the asphalt the entire way along there. And this is when they did the road a year ago, and it's never had that rut, never cars run over, and we kept thinking, why is that happening? Then we measured it. So we're gonna have them restripe it. So, do we wanna do that now, or what?
I think the sooner we get it done, the better.
It's just gonna get
Stop
worse.
the erosion of the road.
Yeah, I mean, it's chunks
Yeah,
are coming.
Oh, yeah, but.
I followed the truck across there, yeah, and he's got one of those bills hanging clear off. I mean,
All right, so I will get a hold of this company. This is Highway Safety who did this, not the company that did it last year. So I'll get a hold of them and say, hey, we've got another stretch of road, so you want it from Shady Lane to the railroad crossing. And what would you like to have done? I mean, they've got to, you can't take those old stripes off, you'd have to paint over those.
So is that 79 cents?
Oh.
Paint over it, 79 cents to repaint it?
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Holy moly.
How many foot is that? 1,700 foot, or it's
Mhm.
either 1,400 or 1,700.
Okay. So we'd be paying for 4, so two black lines to paint over what's there and then paint down 2 new yellow ones.
Would it be cheaper, like how much of the 79 cents is like just the paint? Yeah, could we have Eric
Could Eric
paint
paint?
over the black?
Like let them have Eric paint black over, and then seems like you just take a roll of that line, just walk as fast as
That's,
you can.
we can do whatever you want done.
I mean, it seems like that would be cheaper, I would guess.
I
Right?
mean, I'm good with it.
Right.
But putting the new yellow ones on, you need to pay them.
Oh, yeah.
So why don't you contact them, tell them we'll need that, but we can get Eric right away
Okay,
to paint over that.
okay.
So is it gonna be okay to have them painted over and not be there at all for some period of time? Because that's what will have to happen, right? It won't be.
To let it dry or something? What do you mean?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's not like they're gonna be following Eric, painting the black line.
Right.
I mean, if we can find out a time when they're coming, we can have Eric do it.
Yes.
So you're looking at $1,350 per stripe.
Okay. Well, let me reach out to them tomorrow, okay? And that'll guide us as far as the timing of it. You
And I
know?
think right now, Mark, we're gonna have to look at that edge close. It almost needs re-edged right now. But, I mean, there's some big chunks coming along.
So in other words, the stripe is put too close to the edge to begin with.
It's too far west, 10 inches, 11 inches. If you stand at the tracks and look at it, look at the stripes, there's a gap where you turn in Shady Lane. Look, they don't even, look
They don't
on from
line up.
Shady Lane on down, they don't even line up. So,
Okay, I'll give them a call tomorrow. Okay?
good.
So back to the CCMG, the 2023 call for projects is between January, I'll find it here. January 3rd and January 27th. So if we, now it's also again in July, but we always try to do the January call, that way we get it done hopefully in the summer. So, if you want to do a 2023 project, but I'm sure that you do,
Yeah.
we would need to get that list together and have BF&S start working on putting the specs and stuff together, at least a cost estimate so that we could put in a funding request in January. So what day of the month is our December meeting? December 11th or something like that? Is the 12th the second Monday?
Well,
Okay. So, we would want to have all of our ducks in a row on the 12th, okay? So then we could give it to BF&S. That would give them 30 days to do their thing. We approve it at the January meeting and submit it. Okay? So at the December 12th meeting, we need to have our concrete list of projects that we want to do for 2023 put together. Okay?
It should be easier because the streets are really getting caught up
Yes,
quick.
yeah, we're getting down to
We
the...
don't have so many low-numbered streets
No,
anymore.
No, so, we'll try to let's try to stick to that time frame so that we're not. And like I said, we've done the July call before, and you can make that work, but
That it's tight.
it's tight because contractors are already committed. Okay. So December 12th, I'm gonna write down here. Under other, so Eric and I have got quite a few of our, we'll call them warm weather projects completed. He is now working on scanning and cataloging the individual residential water and sewer line locates.
Cool.
So he's putting that in a computer folder, and then it will be put on a thumb drive, so that it will be, we'll probably have a couple copies of that, one will be in the safe, just so that we have a digital copy of all that now. And it is my hope that that will somehow be able to be put on the iPad, so that I can just take the iPad out in the field with me when I'm doing a locate. You can just click on Bush Street, 607, and boom, these maps will come up. So my question is, does that iPad have capacity to do that?
Yeah,
And I didn't know which iPad you got.
yeah.
Did you get the one that had the?
That's the new one you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, it should have more than enough
Is that right?
storage than you'd ever need.
Okay.
It depends on how much space the file takes up, the folder.
So,
It's probably sufficient.
so I will know when he gets it on the thumb drive.
Right,
He'll only
how
tell me
big it
then,
is.
and then that will tell me if it will hold it on the iPad. Okay. Well, I knew that we were talking about 2 different or 3 different iPads. There were some
Yeah.
that had 100 gigabytes or whatever you call it, and some had less or
Some
whatever.
have cellular, some didn't, yeah.
Yeah, so, but anyway, that's the game plan. That way we've kind of we've modernized things a little bit. Okay? The last item I have is the salt box. Had a bearing go out on it. Took it to row equipment. I think that's what it's called, row equipment there on, and went to pick it up at the end of last week. They didn't have it. They had the new bearings on it. And while they said, listen, while we're replacing this bearing, we should do all 3 because the salt's hard on them. They're $35 a piece plus labor. So they had the bearings on it, but then they said they had to adjust the chain to make sure it had the right tension on it. I was hoping I'd hear from them today, but anyway, the salt box is working fine. Before I took it down there, I just needed that bearing replaced. We didn't want to get a load of salt on it. We'd have it full of salt, and we'd have to take turns shoveling that salt out of there.
We mean we.
So that's all I have. Any questions?
One thing, do you know why the signs are still out coming into town?
I do not.
Okay.
I was wondering that too, I told you so.
Yeah.
Well, there's even that one signboard that's down there by, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the
still
state
lit
really
up
slow
and
about it.
flashing, that the road's closed.
Says in Dayton, you know, I thought maybe it's for.
Mark, isn't NDOT still working towards Mulberry?
yeah, but I
It ought
guess
to be
so.
open today.
That's a good point.
So if they're still working, they would probably still divert traffic on the detour because they don't want semi-traffic in particular going
Oh.
through there.
Is that bridge over there turned towards Frankfurt closed?
I do not know.
Yes,
It was.
it has been.
So that would be 28, so that would be why it would be saying it's closed then.
Well, and they're doing construction in Mulberry too. Having they moved down a bit from us down there. But yeah, the bridge has been closed, so it's been fun to get here from Frankfurt.
That's a good point. I never thought about that. I just figured when they got Dayton done, it was opened up. You know?
Yeah.
No, they're going all the way from here all the way to
421,
So
right.
they've got a ways to go. before
Well,
it's
I
done.
just thought they were paving. I thought, well, paving, they cannot get through. Okay. Well, I'll bet you that's why then. There you go, Mark. That's why I
Thank you.
get the,
Thank you.
I get it figured out for you.
In my last email to Alicia, I said, yay for open roads, evidently, no, not you.
Well, I mean, yes, for you all.
Yeah, no.
Not so much for me.
Yeah, and you're like,
but-
yeah, thanks, Jensen, no.
It is nice
I
that
got here.
they've got Haggerty open, so that's a
Well,
definite
we can
plus.
drive
Yeah.
down to 900.
Oh, yeah.
That's
You can go to Mulberry, can't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can go to Beach King in Mulberry.
No, but they're-
Only the important places.
Only important.
38 is open all the way to 39.
Okay.
I was on it today.
With that, I
You
guess
can't
that's
go.
more play than,
The next phase of the project.
But when they started
I
is
don't know.
a question.
Okay. Any other questions?
Could you please move the podium back?
Sure.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, public comments, that in the public for utilities. Council comments? Mark? No. Stan? Jen?
No.
Carla? That's all, so I'll close this meeting and turn it over to Jen.
You don't have to be?
Nope.
All right. It's the November 14th Dayton Town Council meeting. Ron has already done roll call. We are all still here. So we will move on to the attorney who has lots of ordinances for us.
I do. Okay, so we had, which one do you want to start with? Solicitor?
Sure.
Okay.
I gave everybody a copy.
So I sent this before the October meeting. I wasn't sure if you guys had any changes that you wanted made to it. But essentially what I did is I took, Marshall Taylor had another town ordinance, and I combined that with the current ordinance to create a revised ordinance, which I think is better. But I can go through all of it if you want, but I think you're all capable of reading. So if you have questions specific to anything, I'm glad to.
Scott had questions, I know.
Okay.
Let's see if there's anything specific to point out that's hurt, you know.
The main highlights is that we changed the registration a little bit so that they had to go and get their own police like criminal background check, and it wasn't on the town. And then I think we also changed some of the fees and just made it more robust as far as definitions and things like that.
The background she's talking about is limited criminal history that's available to anybody through the state police for a small fee. And that just puts the onus on them of providing some background information for us. I'll still be doing a local background and verifying everything after they return it in. A couple of questions I had. Under the exemptions on section G, it says any person offering services connected with sale.
Unconnected.
Unconnected.
Yes.
With the sale of goods, wares, or merchandise. Does that cover, or what does cover wording for services in general? Not necessarily selling things, but selling paving driveways, selling construction.
That would be that section.
That would
So
be that
any-
section.
Yeah, any person offering a service that is not connected to selling anything.
Okay.
So any service would be under G. Yep.
That makes sense. Thanks for pointing that out.
Mhm.
Under the exemption, does one of these cover like school fundraisers, non-for-profits, churches? I didn't really,
Yes.
I know it talks about charitable organizations, but I didn't know if that
Trying to
covered that or
find-
not. Schools aren't really a charity, but probably not for profits.
It's been a minute since I've looked. Hold on one second.
While you're looking, do we want the service people to be exempt?
No, we're not. I guess that, back on that question.
So,
So yeah, that's right. She's makes a good point.
I mean,
Thanks.
that's up to you guys. If you want,
That's a primary focus in my mind.
is that.
That is a
with
primary
services?
problem. is those people coming in door to door to say, hey, I want to do your roof, hey, I want to do change your windows, hey,
Okay.
I want to.
Your grass, your bugs,
Your past, your.
So we could take that out and we can put language in here that says that they are not exempt. Yeah,
Yes.
we could do that.
Yes.
Not exempt. Okay, and then as far as the, there is not anything in the exemptions that exempts school kids from selling, but there is something, under the charitable organization is any benevolent, philanthropic, or patriotic partnership, association, or corporation. And then there's another spot somewhere, and I don't remember where, that exempted schools specifically, because they didn't meet the definition of what constitutes a direct sales merchant. So they would be allowed, but it doesn't specifically say school kids selling Girl Scout cookies or whatever. I can put that in there if we want to make it more explicit, but they wouldn't meet the definition, so they were
I
finding
just think
their
it would
exemption.
be helpful for us on
That's fine.
enforcement, because I know that I would be glancing through here trying to see,
Just like
you know,
I did.
in 2 years, I'm probably not, because we don't get a lot, so in 2 years, I'm plumbing through here trying to figure out, okay, did we do that or not? I'm pretty sure it's okay, but I want to see it in black and white, and then, you know, the other officers would probably be in the same boat.
Do you want me to put, I don't want to say charitable, but something to the effect of children or associated with a school fundraiser or something like a fundraiser for clubs, organizations for school-aged children,
Yeah.
K through 12 or something like that, or
Yeah.
preschool through 12, whatever.
Sure.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Other questions?
That was all the questions I had. Oh, there's one, skipped over this. Under the registration, I was a little confused. Says, must be complete in front of clerk treasurer at least 3 days before the applicant shall be authorized to do business. And then after they've given the application turned in, then they hand it over to me to check and verify, and then I get 20 days to complete that. So I'm confused, what's the 3 days
Okay.
for?
I think that is lead through from merging the two different ideas. So would you prefer 20 days or?
I'm not sure we even need that in there,
Just take it
because
out.
later you specify that
Okay.
upon receipt, then it'll be turned over for
Okay.
investigation by the
So I'll
marshal.
just take out the at least 3 days, and I'll just say that they must complete and return to the clerk treasurer before such applicant shall be authorized to do business. Is that good?
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
but that was all that I had noticed.
Okay.
I had a question. So in this, it says it specifically unlawful for any direct seller. And so I tried to determine what direct selling is, and I found this online, of course. Direct selling is the selling of products in a non-retail setting, for example, at home, online, or other venues that are not a store. So I'm not sure that's exactly what we're trying to do here. So like flea markets would be direct selling, garage sales.
Well, that's not soliciting though. If you have a garage sale, you're setting it up in your yard, there's a garage sale permit, I think,
No,
in statute.
No, we don't have permits.
Okay, well, here we don't have a permit, but you could theoretically permit it. But you set it up in your yard, people come to you as opposed to you knocking on other people's doors. So what this is trying to do is to stop people from coming to my house and knocking on my door and saying, do you want to buy Cutco knives or whatever?
So that is what the implied definition of direct seller is in this ordinance.
or solicitor, the definition of solicitor, right?
Right, right. So it's basically someone who goes to someone's house and tries to sell products. So it's got the definition of direct seller is someone who sells goods, wears merchandise at any location other than a permanent place or residence of business of that individual, partnership, association, corporation, and includes but is not limited to peddlers, solicitors, and transient merchants. So I think the intention is that they're going someplace, they're going to your place of residence, not you coming to them.
He brings up a good point, that it really doesn't say specifically direct seller going door to door to residences.
Okay, just with that.
Okay, the guy with the ice cream truck,
Mm-hmm.
would he be considered a solicitor?
You know, like this one guy?
No, it's a van.
Oh, the literal ice cream truck.
Yeah, the one.
There's a
There's an ice cream
section-
van these days.
There's a section in here which expressly exempts, I think, deliveries,
Mm-hmm.
such as, it even referred to the old milk salesman, so I would think that he'd
Yeah.
come under the
I'm not-
milk,
I'm not talking about the Schwab guy, I'm talking about,
I get it.
the one that
Yeah.
sells the ice cream.
yeah, with the music and all that.
Right.
I would say that probably would not qualify because it would be a person,
He's still not knocking on your door, like you still have to go to him to get it.
right,
Yeah,
right. Any permanent merchant or employee thereof who takes orders away from the established place of business for goods regularly offered for sale by such merchant within the town and delivers such goods in their regular course of business. So I think that would count our ice cream salesperson. They get in their little ice cream truck and they go drive around and they regularly sell their ice cream, they would be exempt from this. The purpose, the intention is your vacuum salesman who comes into town, knocks on every door in town, tries to sell you a vacuum, and then leaves the next week, and you're left with a defective vacuum cleaner. That's kind of what the intention of this was in its inception, and now we're just trying to provide a little bit more clarity and also make it so that it's more feasible for the town to manage. Any other questions? Okay, well, I will make those changes and then I'll get a clean draft out to all of you so that we can look at that once it's all been cleaned up. Next one we have is the TIF fund. This ordinance essentially just creates a fund so that if we get some if we get any dollars from tax increment financing or TIF allocation areas, that we have a place to put those monies. So it just establishes that fund.
Does anybody have any questions about this one? Let me get the deb on it. Alright, let's see if I can do this properly. I make a motion to read by title only the tax increment financing ordinance.
I haven't looked down through there to see what's out.
Hang on one second.
Second.
Alright, there's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to read by title only this ordinance. How do you vote, Mark?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Ron?
yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And I vote yes, it'll be read by title only. I make a motion to dispense with second reading and consider ordinance 2022-14, an ordinance to create a fund for tax increment financing allocation areas in the town of Dayton, Indiana on the day of introduction.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to consider this on the day of introduction. How do you vote, Mark?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that is unanimous. So I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2022-14, an ordinance to create a fund for tax increment financing allocation areas in the town of Dayton, Indiana.
Second.
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to adopt this, and I assume there's no further discussion. How do you vote, Mark?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that passes 5-0. Is that correct? Did I cover it all?
Yep.
Hallelujah!
Okay, next one is the stop sign ordinance. So there was discussion of adding a stop sign at Dayton and Maine. And so does. So basically, it just outlines when we originally adopted traffic schedules, traffic code schedules. It says that we believe it's in the best interest of the town to put in a stop sign at Dayton and Main, and then it in fact puts that in. So that's all.
Does anybody have any questions about that one? Scott, did you?
No.
Okay. All right, I make a motion to read by title only ordinance number 2022-15, an ordinance amending traffic code schedules.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to read this by title only. How do you vote, Mark?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And I vote yes, that passes 5-0. I make a motion to dispense with second reading and consider ordinance 2022-15, an ordinance amending traffic code schedules on the day of introduction.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to hear this on the day of introduction. How do you vote, Mark?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And I vote yes, that's unanimous. So I move to adopt ordinance number 2022-15, an ordinance amending traffic code schedules.
Second.
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to adopt this ordinance. Is there any discussion? How do you vote, Mark?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that is adopted.
They aren't on the agenda. Did you want to talk about the salary ordinances?
They are on the agenda. I don't know why I didn't put them under you. They're just like over here on the last page, so yeah, we can.
Okay.
We might as well. While we're
Okay.
here.
So Jen asked me to work on the salary ordinances. I think the elected officials one is ready to go. The non-elected employees one needs some work by y'all.
Yes.
So, if you have questions, let me know, but I just updated them based on what Jen said your conversation was last month.
The salary and compensation for elected officials for 2023 is pretty short and brief. Town council men and women will get $200 biweekly. The council president also gets $100 biweekly. Our area plan representative gets $85 for each meeting attended. And then it does have clerk treasurer on here, $1,248 biweekly or $32,448 per year. We don't have a clerk treasurer right now, so it doesn't really matter. But is there any discussion about this? Questions? All right. I move to read by title. Did you have a question? Go ahead.
If you adopt this, a clerk treasurer, you can never reduce the pay from year to year. But if you do not include it, like in our case now, we're not paying the clerk treasurer, we don't put this on there, can next year, can we start over again and determine our own pay, set the new, because we've skipped,
That's a good question.
skipped a year?
I will have to look, because they have pretty strict rules
Yeah.
about what we can do as far as modifying that, so I would have to look if we could take it off if we don't have one, and then start fresh, or if they would just go back to what we had.
Well, and could we
I
even
saw-
leave it off? Because is there
I don't-
something
I
that
don't
said
know.
we had to
I-
set the,
Yeah, I'd have to look at the statute, I don't know offhand.
I think we ought to wait, because it's always been a problem on setting that, you give raises and you boost the clerk treasurer up, and you start with a new one, and they
And they
don't know
start
as
at the
much, and they start at that higher level,
yeah,
so.
Well, if you want to hold off on doing anything, I'd be glad to look at it and report back.
Yeah.
And then we can make changes for,
I thought I read on the listserv once about something like this, or.
you
know,
may
whether it
have,
went through.
whether it's
Right.
legal or not, I don't know. So you learn about all kinds of things. So let me look, and then we'll check.
okay.
So,
Was there anything else on that? Well, because we'll need to adopt it next month unless we have a special meeting. So, if there's anything else about that one, speak now.
You have to check.
Okay.
Yeah, I will check and I will look, and then what I will do is I will go ahead and just, if we can take it off, I will prepare a draft with it removed, and then I will just have the copy with it on there, and then you guys can consider both of them and decide at the next
Perfect.
meeting.
Okay. Cool. Okay.
Okay. So then the other one, you all need to decide what you want to do, and then I'll be glad to make amendments to it.
So this one, some things that I suggested changes on because it didn't make sense to me were like, instead of just calling them town employees, the top chart was called town office, appointed officers, and then the bottom one was called town employees, I think. I don't know. I should have the other one in front of me.
I've
For
got
the-
both copies.
Oh, okay.
If you want it.
For the town marshal, there was just an error that said he made $60.47 instead of $60,000, $60,477. So that was changed. Which, by the way, Scott, we're gonna need all that money back because we gotta follow the salary ordinance. So I'm very sorry.
Until the next period.
Clothing allowance. I feel like we should change that so it's not just for clothing, just call it a uniform allowance. Because sometimes they need things that are not something they wear, but maybe a flashlight or whatever. So I feel like we should change that. What else did we change? So the box that has rate per, so under school traffic guard, rate per day, it should say rate per shift, and the, that may have been the only one that I changed. It should say rate per shift. IDEX coordinator is $12.50 an hour. Yeah, that's fine. Well, no, this is the old one. So IDEX coordinator should say, instead of monthly, it should say per hour, because she makes $12.50 an hour. And then for not to exceed, the top few, I've never really understood this, give you the not to exceed for the year, but then the other ones give you the not to exceed like per hour or per day or per month. So I'm thinking, why not just change all of them to the not to exceed per year? So like school traffic guard, $21 a shift, 180 days of school, 360 shifts, so not to exceed 7,560. IDEX coordinator, she works 5 hours per pay period, so that's too much math for my brain right now, but multiply that out, $12.50 an hour, and for her not to exceed yearly. I feel like it just reads easier in the table. Maybe that was that way for a reason, I don't know. For the uniform allowance, our deputy marshal part-time guys, so before now, our part-time guys were covering like a full man. They were covering Evan pretty much, plus some time on the weekends. And now, obviously, we're using them a lot less because we have Evan, so they're just covering weekends sometimes, and maybe like if there's a vacation or whatever. My thought, instead of continuing to do the $300 clothing allowance for these guys, is to change their clothing allowance to match our full-time guys. So if you math it out, our full-time guys, presume that they work 40 hours a week, they get $600 a year, so it's like 29 cents an hour that they're like earning for clothing allowance. Is everybody following me? So then I would propose changing our part-time guys and giving them the same. So if you have some part-time guys that are working a lot more for us, then they would obviously need more of a uniform allowance. And then if we have some part-time guys that we have, but we don't often use them, they might not need as much uniform allowance. And I was thinking, instead of doing this once a year, maybe like their last pay period in July and their last pay period in December or something like that. Or I guess it could just be every pay period if we just wanted to add 29 cents per hour that they work per pay period. Did you follow all that? Does that make sense to your brain?
Well, yeah.
Somebody who understood me, explain it in a better way.
So basically you're going to allow 29 cents an hour towards clothing allowance.
Uniform allowance,
Uniform
not
allowance.
clothing, uniform.
Or uniform allowance.
It's still paid to them, so they would still use it however.
Right,
They
I
would see fit.
understand that.
And then just
But-
pay it out twice a year based on the hours that they work to that point.
Right.
For the,
That's
for
what I
the,
was
for the,
thinking.
for the part-timers or?
For the part-timers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because remember that when we hire somebody, we outfit them completely the first year. So, and then some of them work 20 hours every pay period, some work 5 hours per pay period. So that's a pretty fair way of doing it.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, that seems good to me.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna see what I did on the next thing here. Town employees, so we have our laborer, our utility superintendent, and then I changed utility clerk to utility clerk / office manager. So if our utility clerk is taking on more responsibilities than just utility clerk, that kind of covers that. Oh, and for utility clerk, we had not to exceed 29 hours, because if we remember a few years back, there was a big discussion about if it's more than 29 hours, you have to give them full-time benefits, which we didn't, but to appease the people that thought that, we just left it at 29 and we didn't have to argue about it. So I just changed that to say it's a part-time position.
So is there a limit on hours? There's no limit on hours for part-time, is that?
Well, it would still be up to us. And
So the 29, but you're saying the 29 hours that was previously thought is not actually a real thing?
no, like, so this person thought that 30 hours was full-time because they were trying to give their friend full-time holidays and vacations and this and that. And it's not, but in order to not argue with that person, we just said, fine, 29 hours then.
No, I mean,
So-
I didn't know, there's no law that says that full-time is after 29 hours?
Full-time is, to my knowledge, and I would have to check, but I believe that the Department of Labor defines that as 40 hours a week. So if it's less than 40 hours a week, it is technically a part-time position.
Yes. And in our employee manual, it defines part-time employee as, I can't remember the exact words, but it's like, you aren't full-time. You work less than full-time. So it's whatever we say part-time is pretty much. I'm looking for the clothing allowance for, oh, yeah, and the clothing allowance for Mark was $325, and we upped that to $600 like the other full-time guys. And then, the very bottom, where we had last year the one-time stipends, I suggest that we give a stipend to each of them, which we can discuss how much everybody thinks is appropriate. I think that's what we changed it. Oh, the holiday schedule obviously changed to be 2023. And that was it on that page.
Is the terms the same?
Yeah, I don't think that we'll need to up the attorney one. Oh, yes, also, first page, town marshal, so that this is clear, I've listed as exempt, and then if you flip to your back page, it kind of explains, and this is exempt from overtime, so it kind of explains what that means, because it's a bit different when you have police and fire. And then it explains that he would have a flex time schedule if he's required to work outside of his regularly scheduled hours, and then he exchanges those hours for other time off. So like if he works an hour over this day, he gets an hour off a different day. It's what we've been doing, but it's never been included, so. I think. You want me to write on this? Things that were. I guess I'll let you write on it. And then
I wrote some of it.
Oh.
What I'll do is I'll make changes, and then if you see more that you
So,
want.
I noticed the 2023 holiday schedule. Well, never mind, it's fine. It just said 2022, but we changed it to 2023, and I think I essentially
Yeah.
So does anybody have any comments? Or agree, disagree, a different suggestion? Jen, you're crazy. Jen, you're a genius. Anybody? Okay. I gotta at least know if we're doing the changes or not. Like a head nod or like
Well,
a thumbs up or a
I think I
high five.
said in the last meeting, I didn't feel comfortable with the stipend, and I still don't. So I think it should be built into the salary. If you're gonna do that. That's my opinion.
Anyways. I just really like the stipend. I feel like we do pay our town marshal and our utilities superintendent appropriately and fairly. And I don't want to say, they're paid very fairly. And so I don't think that we need to continue to build salary, because you put this much on top of this much, and then you're looking at this much next year, and then I don't know, it just grows exponentially.
We took, all of us, we looked into it, we all took a list of towns, 30, 40 towns, and took an average, and, yeah, our utilities.
Towns in Indiana our size.
Our size, towns in Indiana, and their salaries are, we pay them pretty decently. And that's what we're trying to look at, what everybody pays, so we don't get our town out of line, lower or higher or anything, so.
I think you're making a comparison to their peers, and I understand that. I guess I don't understand why this number here just doesn't go on to the salary. But what was the stipend for last year?
1,500.
1,500. Okay. And the salary for last year was the same position. Right?
Okay, I don't want to say that they're
Yeah.
overpaid, but when you compare it, they're
Yeah.
paid very well. And so I don't want to keep building the salary when they're already very adequately paid, which I appreciate them so much and they work very hard, and I don't want it to sound like they're overpaid. No, like they do a great job and I appreciate it, and they earn their money, but also I don't want to get it out of hand. But I do think we do need to give them a stipend because they do deserve something. They do a great job. We appreciate
They're
them.
great guys, and they do a good job, but yet you look at what the others are paid, and they're not underpaid, so,
Oh, why did I say it that way? I
so,
should've said they're not
by doing a stipend, you can regulate that pay, and it just doesn't always go up, and everything keeps it more in line.
Carla, staying with you.
I agree with it. I don't see any problem with what we're doing now.
Same principle that town clerk thing, it's a shame that state law lets you pay that way.
Carla, what you think?
I prefer the stipend. I like that. It gives more flexibility, I think, to award, if you want to award more, but it doesn't increase the salary, so by percentage. And so then next year, you've add, if you say you add anywhere from 3 to 5% this year, then next year, if you look at it, versus if we want to give more this year, then next year, we don't. It gives you more flexibility that you can award them. I just like that option better.
So now we need to discuss the amount. Last year was 1,500. What you got, Paula? All right.
I think it sounds fine.
You want to keep it the same? I know that, something's out of our control. Mark has, it's like, bam, another thing, bam, Mark, we need you to do this, we need you to do this, like, more testing, more regulations, more whatever, meet this requirement, meet this requirement, supervise these streets, supervise all these locates, supervise this fiber going in, hey, the state's coming in, hey, so I feel like this year, so much has been put on him, so I was thinking maybe Mark 2,000, our utility superintendent 2,000?
I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's good.
Mark, what do you say? Give me some numbers.
Well, again, like I said, I don't know that I agree with the stipend, but, I think, yes, I would say that would probably be reasonable, if that's how you're gonna do it.
For both of them? The 2,000 utility superintendent and 1,500 commercial?
I agree with Jen. I think Mark has had a lot more put on him than a normal year this year. And so outside of his normal workload. And so I think he should be awarded for that.
You can say it. You'll hurt my feelings, but that's fine.
I really don't have any
Okay,
further opinion.
okay. Is there any public comment about any of this ordinance at all? Okay. I think that covers everything. So, another one that you'll give us a clean copy or whatever we're saying?
Correct.
Okay,
I think that's all I have.
okay. All right. Allowance stuff. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So the IDEX coordinator, we did put a limit on that, not to exceed.
Well, that's just, she always it's always 5 hours
5
per,
hours, yeah.
per pay period. So. Yeah, 32.50. Just because it's a figure.
So if you put the stipend in there, does that exceed the not to exceed total?
Great question. I think it probably would. So we need to change the not to exceed total for them.
For whom?
For the utility superintendent and,
Well, the not to exceed is for pay,
That's for their salary. The
Payroll.
stipend is a separate.
it would be like a bonus.
but doesn't it still count as compensation?
It does count as compensation, but this part of the ordinance reflects the biweekly payroll amount.
Oh, okay, great. Oh, okay. Next.
So,
We don't want to include
No more than that.
so yes, but also no.
Yes, no, okay. Allowance docket. I would move to approve the allowance docket dated 10/1/2022 to 10/31/2022 in the amount of $20,208.34.
Second.
Whoa, that was a race. Okay. So then a motion made by myself and seconded by Stan to approve this allowance docket. Is there any discussion? How do you vote, Mark?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that is approved. The reports we're not gonna do because we don't have our bank recs back, but the minutes, I move to approve. I skipped the claims docket, just joking. Back to number 4. I move to approve the November 14th, 2022 claims docket in the amount of $461,245.12.
Second.
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve the claims docket. Is there any discussion? Does anybody want to know why that number is so insanely high?
Yes.
CCMG, the streets and
Okay,
the matching grant.
okay.
Yeah. Because we get the grant, but we have to pay the full thing. So it seems like, oh, what? We paid $500,000. But
So that account was approximately $300,000 for that.
It's page 2, I just saw it. Yeah.
295, 323, 95 cents.
Yeah. Crazy of that. Okay, any other discussion? How do you vote, Mark?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that is approved 5-0. Okay, we're not doing the reports because they don't have our bank recs, but the minutes. I move to approve the following minutes. October 11th, 2022 Utility Board, October 11th, 2022 Town Council, and October 26th, 2022 Executive Session.
Second.
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve these minutes. Is there any discussion? How do you vote, Mark?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so those are approved. Clerk Treasurer Office. Good, sir. Do you have anything to report on this? I left it on there because when I was doing the agenda, I didn't know if you had anything.
I just wanted to say that going over all these books and everything, we've uncovered there's apparently about $35,000 in uncollected utility bills that haven't been pressed on by the last town clerk. So we're going to bring those up and we are going to collect on those. And that coupled with, I think now, our last town clerk did not bill the commercial properties right for 3 years. So that amounts to about $1.5 million to $2 million of water and wastewater that this town lost. Okay, so just let everybody know what's happening up there is we're going over these stuffs almost daily. There's penalties and fines and all kinds of stuff that there was. The last town clerk cost this town tens of thousands of dollars. So, but we're trying to correct these things, but some of them you'll never get back. So.
Can I?
Yeah.
I just want to add to that. I just want to remind everybody that anybody that's wondering, like, well, why didn't the utility board notice anything? Like, for those utility accounts, like, why weren't they watching? Blah, blah, blah. Well, that's before it was split, and we could see nothing, and we were given nothing, and we, like, begged for stuff. So our oversight was, like, exactly 0, which is why we had to split
We
it
didn't
off.
get anything for 2
I
years.
just want to remind everybody of that.
And a lot of this you gotta dig and dig, but think about a couple million gallons of water, the cost of that you could bill, plus the wastewater on it, that's a lot of money that this town lost.
All right, is that it?
Okay,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
so, I'm confused. So you didn't see it, so why didn't you insist on seeing it?
We did.
We did.
We absolutely did.
I mean, how,
We got a lawyer, we got the state involved, and she refused.
We had no access to anything.
She did not give us any records for 2 years, nothing. We couldn't walk in there.
I would ask, like, how many accounts are past due, and she would give me nothing. And I would be like, I need to know, like, how far in the black we are. That's confidential information. I'd have to redact everything in order to give it to you. Like,
We were, one time, after a year and a half or so, she finally printed out a couple stacks of records and let Stan and I go in the back room for 2 hours on each day of 3 days to look at these records. Couldn't take the records, couldn't copy the records, couldn't do anything. The third day, we walked in here and we could not see them anymore because she was mad about something that we brought up at a meeting, and from there on, we never saw another record. That was only 2 times in the entire time that we've been on this board, we've been able to see those records.
well, that was claims docket. I mean, I'm talking utility bills, like, we
We couldn't even walk, you weren't
we
even
had no
allowed in
idea
the
how many
office.
people were 3 months behind, 9 months behind,
So-
didn't think they're billing forever.
So,
I just wanted.
not just in this case, but just in general, is there no accountability for this? I mean,
Well, now there is. Now the
If-
council.
I mean, but if it happens again, or this situation, is there, no one's held accountable for that not?
It will be on an audit, and we called for an audit, and they'll audit next spring, and hopefully that will bring some of this stuff to light, and they'll have to make some, she will be held accountable for some of these things, yes. But you gotta have a board up here that is willing to not just let somebody come and go, like the last board, and hide everything, and not let certain people find anything, you know?
Talking about the claims stuff that we didn't see, like, you know how every month, like, we have a claims docket, and some things, like if it's insurance or whatever, or like our water bill or our light bill, the clerk treasurer can pay those in advance, cause like, you don't want your water getting shut off, but other things cannot be paid in advance, you need permit, you need approval to pay those. Well, to go around that, instead of giving it to us so that we can approve it, she just pay it.
It's against the
Instead of
law without
printing
board
them,
of approval.
waiting
Yeah, and then,
months, 2 years,
and then we
whatever.
got the bank statements, and she was paying our bills without, before, she was paying them there cashed before we even had a meeting to okay paying them. That's strictly
Why are
against
we
the
getting all
law.
right?
You know? Well, because people wonder, I think, it's amazing, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Look at some of the other
So
towns, what's
frustrating.
going on, you know, so. Anyway.
Okay,
I'm pissed because every single day we go in there, there's something else.
yeah,
And there's a fine that we can't get out of, or a penalty we can't get out of, or something that hasn't, it takes tons and tons and tons of hours of work of Jen and I to find some of this stuff, so.
And legally, you couldn't get a lawyer to help you cut through some of that crap?
no, I mean, we had a lawyer, and no, the clerk treasurers are like untouchable people.
That should be
It's
changed.
so-
They have that already done.
Well, they should, that's why they should have where some of these towns, that you raise a clerk up to 60,000, and then she's been there 40 years. New clerk comes in, they've got 1 day experience, they get 60,000. That should be changed, but you can't go, that's why I didn't take a salary for 8 years, because then it never went up. They never went ahead on that, on the payroll, on the
Salary ordinance?
salary ordinance, they never put an increase on it, so that when somebody finally took over from me, when we had her trained, they wouldn't have to start with a 10-year increase, and she didn't know anything. And that's why that needs, if possible, we need to be able to start and pay them for their knowledge and what they are, but, you know, not pay a 30-year-old, somebody been here 30 years, pay that to a brand-new person, so.
I get that, but
Yeah.
Clerks, town clerks. Look at these other trustees and township trustees, what they're doing. You can't touch it. They close the offices, they don't let the people in there, they spend $100-some thousand. Why are some of our goods that are ordered for this town sent to a private house, to your clerk's house?
Well, we ran into that
You can't do that
when I
either.
was on the town board, that we had a clerk that, she shut down the thing for 1 hour a week. I mean, that's, so I understand. what you're
Yeah.
doing.
And
She
you
would,
can't-
she would argue with our attorney, and I mean, it was uncomfortably arguing and was disrespectful.
what's gonna stop that from happening again?
Well, you should have a
Well, right now we don't have a clerk treasurer, so can't happen.
Well, there's an idea.
I mean, really, like,
I'm the clerk treasurer in name only, because you gotta have all that, there's no salary or anything, and Jen and I do all the clerk treasurer's work.
But there's two people that are accountable for it, which.
right.
Yeah.
Well, the
So
whole
the
board
la-
is, at this point, the
Yeah.
whole board is, because
Right,
they're able to get the
but
done.
Well,
this
it-
is the way, that's the way it should always be, that you
Right.
guys should all.
So like our
Yes.
monthly reports, our revenue report, our fund report, our appropriation report, all of those get approved every month. And like I said, this time we can't approve it because we don't have our bank recs, which we don't do our bank recs. We have an outside person do our bank recs. Susie Bass, who's myself, does the financial stuff. But our previous clerk treasurer, when we would need to approve those things, she would not give us the bank statements. Like they were like the
Holy grail.
yes, we were not allowed to have them. So we made a motion that we were allowed to get them. We went to the bank, we got the bank statements so that we could approve these things. I guess she didn't realize that,
She
and that's when she quit. She found out we were getting bank statements, and
Because
she
it proved that she was doing something illegal and writing these checks without board approval.
Which, speaking of town clerks getting away with everything, since we're just having this session now, she had somebody on our bank account that doesn't even live in this town, that lives in Florida.
Lives in Florida, the head key person on our bank
We need
account,
to move on. I'm
but
getting
yet crucified
I
us.
didn't mean to bring up anything, I just.
all the bad feelings.
I don't mean
Yes.
to bring that up, but you can't unring
Okay.
the bell, but I'm just thinking as a business person,
It's a disaster.
Well,
I
here-
know everything that's going on,
Yeah.
and for somebody to say, oh, but you can't come in and look at your own books,
Because she had a board that supported her. And
Oh.
normally you have a board that's not gonna let,
This doesn't sound good.
for 3.5 years, I'm a town council person on the last council. I received no mail for 3.5 years. Certified mail, registered mail, anything.
We gotta move on. Scott,
Okay,
hurry to
sorry.
the
Is that
podium.
right?
Hurry.
okay, I get it.
Before I say any more, Scott, it's your turn.
Sorry to offend.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
No.
I took that just kind of a wow, that you weren't allowed to
This-
learn
It's
about.
all in the state.
Yeah,
We had
Okay.
a debug, so there was no recording of people talking in the offices too. Think about
Okay,
that.
well, that's water under the bridge.
I have one, pardon?
moving on.
The only topic I have tonight is I want to propose replacing our handguns. And I'll preface this by saying that I'm not one of those officers who believes in the gun of the month, week, or even year type club. I've been here 8 years now, and I haven't suggested this, but I think the time is right for the change. I've watched the departments around us changing their firearms for various reasons, and I've sat back and monitored that, and I believe now is a good time to do that, mainly because the supplies, we're past COVID, and the supplies for a lot of this stuff is getting easier to get. The major factors that I'm presenting, the reasons behind changing, number one is ergonomics. The handgun I'm proposing that we change to, which is a Glock Model 19 and 9mm, to not get into too much details, it has the ability to change grip sizes and circumference. Not every person has the same kind of hands, and this comes with a grip size adapters so that the shooter can modify that, and obviously if it better fits your hand, you're going to be better at marksmanship. And the better you are at marksmanship, then that increases safety, which decreases town's liability. I know our current handgun, which is the SIG P229, is not readily adjustable and doesn't have the capabilities that the Glock does. It's about max for me to be able to manipulate safely. Our new officer has smaller hands than I do even, and he struggles with it. He's able to qualify, but it's still a struggle for him. And that's the reason why so many of the law enforcement agencies across the U.S., it's estimated that over 60% of our nation's law enforcement use the Glock platform due to that very, very reason. And that's ergonomics. Second most important reason is training. All of our officers that work for us part-time work for larger departments, mainly typically County Sheriff's Department. They use the Glock. West Lafayette carries the Glock and issues the Glock. Lafayette PD is issued the Glock. So what that does for us training-wise is those officers that are coming to work for us from another department have to train on a totally different weapon platform, and this would simplify this. You might have, well, what would prevent them from changing their guns next week, next year, whatever. There's no guarantees for that, but it seems like right now the consensus is everybody believes that that's the gun to carry. So we are trained by instructors from those departments. That's where we see our firearm training. So this will also simplify and make that easier to train on. They wouldn't have to be thinking, okay, well, Well, Scott carries a different type of gun, so I've got to change my wording and my instruction for him because he has a SIG that has 2 different types of trigger pulls, whereas the rest of my shooters have a Glock which has 1 trigger pull. So you can imagine the training problems that can present training on 2 different types of trigger pulls on the same firearm. And there's other things like safeties that are simplified with the Glock and various things, but I don't want to get into a bunch of details. I've emailed you all some information on this. Cost-wise, all in with purchasing 6 Glocks and sights and ammo and holsters, the total would be $7,250. And I have estimated probably a little high on a lot of these things, probably come in less than that. The pistols themselves, we get law enforcement pricing through Glock, so most manufacturers or gun sellers, gun retailers sell them at about the same price. All in, we're talking about $7,250. We will receive a trade-in for the 8 SIGs that we currently have, $300 each, so we get another $2,400 off of that. So I have included red dot sights in that pricing for the full-time guys, along with weapon-mounted lights.
So why do we need 6 guns?
Well, we currently have 6 officers. I originally wanted 8. We met with the liaisons and we subtracted 2 to try to save on some costs. But it's much simpler if each officer is issued his own gun when it comes to training. That way, he's not running back and forth to the department to grab the gun. He's scheduled to go train that day, and it makes it a lot simpler to be trained with that gun.
So I've been researching this, and I think we should do it. But I did have a question. How long do you think 4,000 rounds is going to last?
I'm estimating that to get us a year or 2, maybe. The initial training is going to be the most. When we switch over and particularly get the red dot set training, that's where most of those rounds are going to be coming to. I was told that you plan on about 1,000 rounds per officer. So those other officers won't need as much because they've already trained on that gun. They just have to shoot 1 qualifying round because they're already training on that platform. So, and that's about 50 to 100 rounds for each of the part-time officers.
Do you log the ammo usage? I mean, do you distribute so much for training or for carrying, so on and so forth? Do we know how much where it's all going actually?
An officer's issued duty ammo,
Right.
just enough to carry, which is filling both mags and his gun, which is generally around 50 or 60 rounds, and then the training ammo is just an officer's given enough to qualify with for that range session, whatever that would be. I contact the firearms instructor and say how many rounds we need to bring, and that's what we do.
Because I mean, I know ammo is just, it's real expensive right now.
It is.
It doesn't look like that's going to come to an end anytime soon.
And that's going to be, this will come in stages. My very first purchase would be to go out and secure the ammo. If that takes 1 month or 6 months, that should be secured before we do anything else because the guns are pointless to us if we don't have the ammo to get qualified and start carrying them. So that would be the initial upfront cost. Once we get that, then we would start securing the other items.
Scott, is there a way you could trade in the 6 SIGs for 2 extra guns, so you'd have 8 guns so you'd have backups?
We are trading in all 8 of our
I'm
current
not saying
SIGs.
those, wouldn't that balance it out if you trade in the 6 for 2 more guns to have some backups? I don't know.
Well, that would be included in this price that they've given us, that I'm calculating on the 6. 6 guns gives us 1 in reserve because one of our officers is issued a gun that their department allows them to carry at Dayton. So that's my backup. Now, we do plan trying to recruit another officer, so that officer will be issued that gun, and then we will not have a backup at that time. Should something break or, God forbid, they become involved in a
I
shooting.
think you need to have a couple backups.
Well, if they become involved in a shooting, they probably don't need another gun because they're probably not working.
Well, I'm just saying that, you know, if the mainspring
Yeah.
breaks or something, you don't want a guy out there without any of his weapons.
It's like a big stick, or a stick shaped like a gun.
The backup plan for that is to have the part-time officers qualify on another officer's gun, and then it will become a pool gun. Stay at the office, they will come and get that. That's the fallback. It's not the ideal, but that's the fallback plan.
I'm all for getting these new guns. I'm also all for joining a Gun of the Month club. I think that sounds very fun. Don't know why you're not a part of that. I am not sold on the red dot sights, the handgun lights, and then the fixed sights that come along with the red dot sights. I realize I might be in the minority on
I'll
that.
tell you what, if somebody's standing there with a red dot on their chest, they're gonna give up real
Well,
quick.
this isn't bad. This doesn't put a red dot on you, but
It's not a
that would be
laser.
very scary.
It's not a laser. It's an actual red dot sight, and the thought process and why people it is so popular, becoming more popular. It has been popular with competition shooters for decades. And now law enforcement is getting in on the advantage of that due to lower costs and smaller size, more portability. The advantage of a red dot sight, it's getting long-winded, but a regular sight, you have a front sight and a rear sight, and one is trained to fixate on the front sight for accurate shooting when you're shooting anything, okay? So what that means is my target is actually out of focus, and I'm focusing on my front sight. With a red dot, I can focus on the target and see whether maybe he has a gun, a wallet, or a phone in his hand, and be trained to do that. It also helps those who have nearsightedness or need bifocals. It can be difficult to adjust your glasses in the proper way to make the front sight clear. Bear in mind, when that front sight is clear, the target is blurry. And we're finding in law enforcement, we would rather focus on that target and make sure we're shooting what we're supposed to be shooting. So that is why people are moving to the red dot sight.
When I said I'm not sold on the red dot sight, I didn't mean like the actual sight. I meant I'm not sold on Dayton paying for the red dot sight, the handgun light, and then the fixed sights.
I had asked, I thought Mike the same thing, it's like a laser and the dot goes around, but it's not. But I asked Jen once, so what is the red dot? You know, and she was saying, I think your husband's got one, but other police places, sometimes they have them, but some departments make them, they buy it out of their clothing and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Is the training different if you have different sites?
Yes. Because most of us have been trained in the fixed sights, there is a red dot transition course that they run you through. That's now the county has, it used to be like several days long. Now they've cut it back to 2 8-hour day of just transition. But the more is also better. But like someone like me who's had iron sights his whole career, that is a change and something that needs to be trained with continually.
So why did you only want to do this on 2 guns?
Because not all of the part-time officers are currently issued red dot sights, so they're not all trained with it. So I would leave that as their option. If they want a red dot sight, then they can pay for it and put it on, if it meets department specifications.
And I think that's a great, what's the word, like a great thing, but I think it should be extended to everyone, because it's like $800. I mean, the red sights, so now you gotta have new sights in case your red dot fails, so you can have,
Very good.
I'm just saying, so it's an extra $100 plus the red dot sight, plus the handgun lights. Which
Right
is
now,
separate,
the availability, I mean, I've figured pretty high on that 600 per gun. There's not a lot of availability right now. The model that I prefer right now is
What,
not even available. So it may be 6 months before I can even get my hands on what I would prefer,
what are you looking at? Which model?
the aim-point.
I mean, they're all pretty pricey, but I was just curious.
So does everybody like the idea of guns?
Yes, guns.
But then the question is, the extras on it, who pays? Buying new guns.
Yeah, guys.
I do like the idea of buying these new guns too. Yes.
I don't know, I kinda agree with Jen and the gingerbread, so to speak. I mean, you need a gun. I'm not sure that you need the other stuff. It sounds more like a want. I don't know. I'm kind of in that, leaning towards that thought process that if they want it and they want to train that way, then they have a uniform allowance that they can utilize for themselves, much like the part-timers are doing.
Stan, what you think?
I don't know that much about a red dot sight. I prefer a laser myself.
The scary dot? Well, no.
Yes. The green ones.
Oh, very particular.
Just kind of one thing to throw out there. When we would initially get these, let's say you didn't get the red dot sight, then we would get a holster that is not made for a red dot sight or light. And if you put a gun that does not have particularly a handgun light mounted to it in a gun that's made for a holster with a handgun light, then it's not secure, and the safety measures that come with the holster, the security levels are bypassed. It's just basically flopping around and loose. So what would happen, my intention was, particularly with, like, if we were to go with the red dot sights and handgun lights for Evan and I would purchase a holster for that. And then I would ask the other 4 guys, what are you going to do? And make one holster purchase. Are you going to mount a light and a sight on that immediately upon issue? And if the answer is no, then they're not going to get that holster. And if they put it on later, they would have to have the cost to purchase that holster. So that's another $150, $160 purchase that they're going to have to make on top of the red dot sight. So I thought that was a happy medium by not buying the sights, but offering to buy the holster initially, because there's not really any difference in cost to a holster that will accept a red dot sight versus one that don't. They're not too interchangeable.
You had said once on the holsters that you trade in, you hardly get anything. You throw them in a pile, you get $5, $10 or something.
Yeah.
Are there any of the holsters that they throw in that they change from, that would hold the red dot, the gun with the red dot, that you could get cheap too, or are they?
I really like everybody to have a holster that's like a camera activated, you know, like they're,
Big spring on it?
come on, you know what I'm talking about? Like you pull your gun and your camera comes on automatically?
When I purchase holsters, I will be getting holsters that can accommodate
Whether it's,
a
right.
bolt-on signal device for our body cameras.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I've got another question. Down here at the bottom, you said we have $30,000 in a budget. Is that, you know, what you're proposing to buy is not a lot of that part?
No, that's out of the public safety account that we have, and that's just what's in that. We could get most of the equipment through that, out of that account, and the training could be taken out of our LEC account, which has a balance of over $10,000. We can normally take ammo out of that account, because it's used for training.
So, do we gain money on this public safety thing every year?
Yes.
There's so much
Yes.
allotted
That's
for
the
it.
public safety income tax that was put in several years ago, and it's been accruing for a couple
So,
of years.
yeah, it's not like the town's gotta lay this money out to borrow.
It's not once and done, and we'll,
Yeah,
next year that will be,
it'll grow
I
again.
think they've line itemed a certain amount of that this next year in that budget from the public safety. I'm not sure that it's earmarked for anything, but it's.
My thoughts about that, public safety, like whenever we think of public safety, is like police, because like we have police. But, I don't know this for sure, but I wonder if we couldn't pay our fire contract with this money. Just a thought.
You don't wanna hear that.
Well, or part of it, part of it, not all of it, I'm not saying all of it.
But, yeah.
The other big item that I assume that we may use that for later on is the car.
Car, yeah.
But, you know, that was just, like you said, the red dots may not even be available, we don't know. How long would you think it would take to get 6 blocks?
I think they're pretty much in stock. I think I could have them within probably a month or two.
How about the ammo?
Same way with the ammo. Last I checked, last week, they had it in stock at Railroad.
But the sites, are you thinking that they might be back ordered?
Yeah, because I've checked on those, and
So that's gonna
the
screw
one
you
I
up.
want is not in stock.
That's gonna screw you up on your holsters.
And the problem with that also becomes searching out and finding one. You know, I only have a couple people that I can have accounts with that I can get purchases through. I don't have a credit card where I can get on eBay or some other website to see if they've got one in stock cheap and buy it without paying out of my own pocket first, which is not a good option.
Yeah.
So you really could be delayed getting the guns if you get the sight, if you want the sights, because you can't get the holster, right? You could be 6 months before you're actually able to.
Could be.
So
Our question is who pays for it?
you cannot put a gun without a red dot and flashlight into a holster designed for a red dot and flashlight?
No. You can leave the red dot on, but you have to have a weapon mounted light for that holster securely.
So you can buy a holster that will fit a red dot, a light, but have a gun that only has the light and use it?
That's what I've been told.
All right, I'll buy you a light, but I won't buy you the red dot. Deal? Jacob? Not me, I mean Dayton. I'll spend their money. That's what I meant.
We heard that.
That's what I meant. Dayton, I'll spend their money to buy you one.
Yeah, it's on, yeah. We heard it. Let us come back. Close meetings.
What do you guys think? Carla's wishy-washy, I don't know what you think. I didn't understand your position. Tell me what it is. You wanna buy the guy the stuff he's asking for?
I think it's in line with, to update what he's got, you know, yeah.
He does not have a red dot right now.
He's not Marshall Dillon, you know, he ain't got a Coke 45 carrying around, you know.
Does he want one? All right, these, Mark, you want to get the red dot and the flashlight?
My gut feeling is the red dot ought to probably be on.
And the flashlight?
Well, and the flashlight, I mean, it's gonna have to fit in the holster.
But you wanna pay for it?
The town of Dayton.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Okay, so you guys are yeses, I'm a no, Carla is somewhere in the middle. Hey there, tiebreaker. What do you think? Not to put all the pressure on you or anything, but
Buying what he needs, and we'll take a scrimp on his car when it comes due next year. We'll buy it without a fender.
we're gonna get the roll down windows like this instead of automatic.
Go down and get a
If he's,
bicycle.
if he's willing to take it out, I mean, some of this public safety, I guess it sounds like he probably did.
Okay, it's a deal. You're walking, but you'll have a cool gun. I'm still
And we
over
need
getting
to
you a
make-
golf cart. Let's go with that.
Do we need to approve it
Yeah.
so that he can go ahead?
You wanna make a motion for this?
Make a motion to approve the marshal's request for new Glock Model 19s and all the associated equipment.
For six,
You wanna put a limit on that, or you just,
six of them.
I said the associated equipment
so
on the
that,
sheet.
this sheet, okay. Is there a second?
You guys look for a price tag on that?
He said this sheet.
Okay,
So,
okay, so this sheet, which
presumably it
is,
will be $4,850, 600 for a red dot, 125 handgun light, 95 for each
I'll
fixed
second.
sight, 200 for each holster.
so 7250 would be the top mark.
Can we just discuss, okay, Ron's seconding it, so, never mind, no, never mind.
$7,250
Okay,
minus
stand
your
around.
trade-in, right?
Right,
Yeah.
and then once we get the weapons and trained, then we go trade those in and
Yeah.
get another 2,500 knocked off that.
Right.
All right.
That'll be down the road towards the end.
There's a motion made by Stan and seconded by Ron to approve this purchase and everything that this entails. Is there any further discussion? How do you vote, Mark?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes,
Ron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And I vote no, but it still passes 4-1. Was that it for you? Oh, because I just had stuff signed, but we already did that.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we've already done the salary ordinance because I put it in the wrong spot. Does anybody else have anything for Marshall Taylor? Excuse me, hold on, Ron's got something for you.
A long time ago, at one of our meetings, a couple of years ago, we had I don't know, it was an off-duty policeman, or he was an off-duty policeman that didn't work out here, walk into the meeting with a firearm on his side. And he whips his coat open, shows everybody the gun. And it's always bothered some of us that who can walk in here and can't walk in. And I think you said once that anybody that's a police officer can come into town hall. I'm not sure if this is right, but since on the listserv and a lot of these things, the way I understand it now, and you might want to check on it, that the town hall, the only person can walk into town hall with a firearm is your town marshal or a state police person. Not somebody from the west side, not somebody from the county, not somebody else. The way I understand it, there's been a lot of talking about this, so if you could check on that.
I don't have to check, I know, that's incorrect information. Anybody who can legally carry a firearm can walk in here and have that firearm on that person. So the exclusions are felons.
No, but I think a lot of.
The only way that you could prevent the public from carrying in the town hall is if we held court in the town hall. So the Lafayette City Utility Building, you can carry in there. Any place that does not hold court, any person who can legally carry can come in there and carry.
An NFL stadium. You can't carry it in
I
an NFL
think
stadium.
Private property, that's a gray area, because private property versus
Right,
public
private
property,
property, you can make
your own
your
rules.
own rules.
It's crazy.
The way these other towns are talking, they have their ordinances, and they've been checking with the state, and that's what they've been saying, I thought.
Ooh.
So
What
we
I've
might
been
just-
reading,
and they could be wrong, but we might want to check on it again.
I've been reading those comments on listserv, and that's what I've been hearing. They've wanted to do different, but they can't because they don't hold court in their town hall.
Well, my suggestion is, the next time somebody walks in here, I mean, you're talking about a regular person off the street could walk in.
Anybody,
Somebody has and shows that gun that we know about, I think we ought to stop the meeting and hold it another time.
well, there's actually no law in Indiana that says that your weapon has to be concealed either. So you can carry open or concealed in Indiana, and and now we are a shall issue, it's a constitutional carry state. You don't have to have a permit to carry either.
But it's gotta be open though, right? You
Nope.
don't have- You don't have to conceal carry.
No, you don't, it can be concealed. There's no determination by the laws whether it has to be concealed or not.
So unless we have a court, you're saying if we had a court in here or something.
Yeah, we would have to have
I volunteer to do
trial
that.
versus, have
I think
local
we
hearings,
We need a
Which-
court
I've
for
already
these
got it.
solicitors, we can have a.
which
court.
means you have to have a magistrate, a whole bunch of other
You.
things.
Magistrate.
He can't be a magistrate.
You,
That's
magistrate.
responsible. No, thank you.
Oh.
Respectfully decline.
I researched this quite a bit, because when I first got here, we had a sign somewhere that said, firearms allowed, and I wanted to make sure we were correct on that, and unfortunately, that's what I found out, is that we couldn't post that.
Well, that's scary, that's a shame.
I was under the impression in our ordinance it said Dayton officer or a state police officer on duty only. I thought that was in our ordinance.
I believe state law, though, provides that you can carry weapons in public buildings. I can double check that, but I'm pretty sure that that's
It
state
does.
law.
We can't pass an ordinance to
No.
supersede state law.
Correct. But I'll verify that.
All right.
Good.
Thank you, Marshall Taylor.
Scott,
All right.
I think city has their 911.
Sheffield Volunteer Fire Department Fish Fry Market Street. So I put this on here because,
I get flyers.
as it stands now,
Performance.
I'm sorry, I didn't give them a chance to ask the question.
You need some, I'll get some.
I'm sorry. I should have said, was there anybody from the public? I'm very sorry. So the fish fry for Market Street. So I guess ever since the fish fry's been a thing, they've been closing Market Street to fry fish or something. I don't know. Yes?
I haven't seen it in the last few years.
Right, because.
I don't know. Everybody says they close the
Because
street.
COVID, for 2 years, COVID, you had to drive through the parking lot of the school to get your fish and everything. But we all used to go to the fish fries, they'd have them out in the whole front of the bays of all the fire trucks. The fire trucks were parked out on the street, and they blocked that one block, I thought, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
blocked
gotta
the one
say
in.
yes. Yes,
Yeah,
that happened.
yeah.
Okay, so I put this on here. I've been to the fish fry, but I just.
Like half the block is blocked off.
Okay, so as it currently stands, so last time when somebody wanted to block the street, our ordinance says, you can't block the street, but they've been blocking the street, and I just don't want to get to fish fry time and have to be like, hey, I'm very sorry, you can't do this thing you've been doing for years and years and years and years and years. So I think that we need to change our ordinance to have an exemption for, this public safety thing that they've been doing forever. I don't know what words we would use, but
I'll come up with something.
Why don't,
the fire department can close the street.
why don't we ask the fire department how they wanna set it up and if they need to close the street? Cause they have not needed to close the street the last 2 years I know of.
But he's saying it's because it was drive-through, not go-to.
Well,
Oh, here comes
Maybe
Marshall
Scott.
Taylor.
Last one they had, they closed the streets as part of their drive-through. They're getting away from having people sit in the actual building, so they had a drive-through set up, and it used Market Street to do that. And they had that street shut down. And when you're considering your ordinance, fire department, you're talking about people who know how to direct traffic. They are very well organized.
Yeah.
They have many staff there. They're
It's a
keeping it
community
safe,
event.
so that's,
How many years?
they're doing
has
it
been-
properly, you don't have to worry about, accidents and things like that, because they have cones, they have lanes, they have people directing traffic. And on the outside, somebody gets hurt, somebody's there to take care of the problem.
What was that, Carl? I didn't hear.
How many years has it been going on?
Probably 40.
Forever. Exactly,
Can you
forever.
give me a ballpark?
30
100
maybe.
years, 50 years?
At least
30.
40,
Hold on.
at least.
I would say if that one you grandfathered in, there's zero reason we should have to change an ordinance for something that's been going on. If we allow, it's a community event, it's not private property, it's a community event, it's not for a private personal event, I'm just appalled that we're even considering it.
Well, I just wanna make sure they're covered.
I'm sorry?
It ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well,
Cindy?
I just,
Is it?
Cindy Marsh, 749 Shady Lane, and I agree with Carla. That's pretty much what I was going to say. When David Hiddle was out here, someone asked him something about a situation where something exists, but it's not legal to do it right now. And he said it's actually legal but non-conforming. It means essentially it's grandfathered in. Now there's not an adjustment to an ordinance for everything, every zoning issue or every ordinance that has an exception. It's just something that's grandfathered in, and if somebody complains, you say it's legal but
Well,
not.
we don't have to change the ordinance, I would
Yeah.
prefer not to,
But it-
but I just wanna make sure it didn't come to fish fry time and people say, they're not a parade or whatever, like the two things you can close the street for with the town marshal's permission, why, you know what I mean?
More than that, I don't want it to be that after the fish fry, somebody else comes to this town and says they closed it down for that. Now, why can't they close my street down and stuff? I think,
why do they wanna close it down for a community event that's been going on for 30 years or more?
Not even like a community building, it's
well,
a
we
fire
argued
department.
we argued this before, and we said no, and they stood up here and argued with us, and it's gonna be a
Well,
market.
But it wasn't a community event. It was
Well, I know that,
Hold on.
I know that,
Hold
but
on.
they still are.
So at what point does it become something that has been grandfathered in? I mean, we had Boss Parade this year, right?
That's allowed.
Turn the sirens on.
Well, by ordinance, it's not allowed.
It is, by ordinance it is allowed.
How is that?
Because we're a parade. Hold on, let me find it. I should have this.
Okay.
Now, there's a difference when you got a parade going down the street for 10 minutes, or 5 minutes, or 15 minutes on
We
the
didn't
street.
close the street.
Compared to closing, and you just block it off temporarily while you drive by, just like a funeral procession. But to close an actual street down and have a private endeavor, whether it's Kohler Brothers or any other business here, you're just gonna be playing politics in the future, and it's gonna, you're just gonna, this person will be able to close it down, and that person won't be able to, because they got friends up on the board. And we need to eliminate all that, so it's, the grandfathered in people are grandfathered in, and if we have to put it in writing in an ordinance, we ought to. If we don't, I don't know, I just think we ought to.
Okay, so are there any other events that would be grandfathered in other than this Kohler Brothers?
Not right now.
No, there shouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm, worried about nothing, but
And I haven't lived here as long as a lot of you people, are there any other events that have been going on even close to that?
Nancy Oswald, 762 Shady Lane. One that comes to mind is if Dayton Town Days ever comes back, would that automatically be grandfathered in because that did close down some streets? So that would be an example.
Well, that was first of all, there's a difference between a community event doing the whole community versus just a private,
Exactly.
like if our business.
But isn't the fire department a community?
yeah, I think that's what he's saying, like, that's why it's acceptable.
Yeah.
I can't find it right now, but I promise we were going to parade. I'll get it to you first.
So the question is,
Do we need to change it or not?
do we need to
Alicia?
have that in there just to make sure
What you think?
nobody can argue it?
I think we would have to be very cautious as to how we define whatever we put in the ordinance.
Yeah.
Because I think a community event could be argued many different ways.
Yes.
Because if it's benefiting a member of the community, would that be a community event? If it's open to the entire community, would that be a community
Yeah.
event? If it's put on by a public organization, would that be a community how we would word that. I mean, ultimately, with an ordinance, it's as to whether it is enforced. So if Marshall Taylor is going to go and shut down the fish fry, then we need to amend the ordinance. If it's not going to be shut down, I mean, it's 6 to 1, half a dozen to the other. So I think we can amend it and make it crystal clear what is and what isn't. But I think, again, we have to be extremely careful in how we word that.
Well, if we think something is in violation of an ordinance, other than the fish fry, doesn't the town council have the power to issue a variance to an ordinance for a one-time event? If someone come in and asks permission, they want to do that, just similar to, well, we're going to be having construction done on my house, I'm going to bring in a dumpster, it's going to be there 4 hours, I got to sit it on the road because I can't sit it anywhere else.
I don't think that particular statute or ordinance provides for a variance, but that's one thing we could do. But if we put in that there could be a variance, then that opens up, well, you guys gave a variance to so-and-so, but you didn't give a variance to so-and-so. And I think that is what we're trying to avoid, is that we generally want to uphold the statute, but for this one specific instance.
We want to get away with each year's board being able to play favorites with their friends and stuff to do it. It needs to be one way or the other. I mean, look at the fireworks down here. They've got thousands of people out here and they don't close the road down. You know, they keep
I
it
do.
open.
I close it down. When they're leaving, we shut down Dayton Road at 38, and I don't allow anybody to come into town until we get all the people exited from all the parking areas. So technically, we're closing it.
They're moving.
But it's not closed during the event. It's for traffic.
But traffic control falls under my discretion and purview, so
Correct.
I have a lot of leeway in what that is.
Right.
And obviously, I would consult with the council to find out what their wishes are. Should an event pop up and somebody had permission, like
But
we had in
still,
the
it's not
past.
during the event, that you're not asking, they're not asking and you are not doing or closing the road during the time frame that the event isn't
It's
taking
just a
place.
traffic control thing
Right.
for like a half hour.
Basically, we're saying.
We just don't want to get into what we had before, so.
Does anyone have the current ordinance pulled up? I don't. I thought
Wait, what ordinance?
you were
The one that
flipping
says you can't close it?
through. Yeah, can't block roads.
Okay. I was looking for the one that, yes.
I think it was more first and foremost, but I don't remember. I don't have it pulled up. I know I've looked at it recently, but not.
We tabled it.
When is the track?
November 21st. No, I'm just kidding. May.
Okay, so we've got time to
We
find
got
it.
time,
That's
yeah.
the-
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Let's see that. It could be, I have no idea.
Football fish.
I'm allergic to fish.
You are? Oh, goodness.
They have tenderloins.
This is Indiana.
Yes.
Is it fried in the same oil as?
Oh, probably.
No.
Oh, it's not?
Well, then I
They
get
have,
that.
they have a commercial company come in and do it.
Okay, you take care of all.
You're coming. We're gonna tell you when. You're coming.
Apparently November 21st.
Don't show up November 21st.
I'm gonna be very hungry and very sad.
Okay, solar panels, town hall and the police station. I'm gonna give this over to Mark because he has been the guy on this, and I appreciate so much that you have taken the lead on this and you're so knowledgeable.
Well, so I think by the board, I've been working with this guy from Merchant Solar, trying to explore possibilities of solar panels for town hall, police station, possibly the building down there off of Haggerty, powering that up. I got started on this when I started looking at the payables vouchers and saw how much that building down there was using in power, and it turned out that some of the billings were joined together, and so that didn't work out. It wasn't nearly as much as we started, but it kind of put the ball in place. And I've got a quote from this guy, which I sent to all of you. I've still got a ton of questions that I would want to ask him before we would move forward on this. Let's see if I can find this real quick. There's a lot of incentives that recently came up that would potentially be available to us to make this more cost efficient. Return on investment was going to be about 5.5 years, I think, as I remember on this. So if everything worked as described, in 5.5 years that we'd have the system paid off, and we pretty much wouldn't be paying electric bill anymore. Now that's not completely true, because there's going to be times when solar's not being generated and there is no battery backup on this. But before we move any further on this, I assume everybody got this that I sent to them. I think we need to discuss it and see if we want to continue exploring more on this, or I need to find out where everybody else is at.
So I love the idea, especially at town hall here, because it would go up on the roof, and I went up there, and it's very scary, but I did it. And the way it will sit, the way he explained it to us, the way it will sit, it won't be ugly. Like, you're not going to be like driving down 38 and be like, what's on the roof? That's terrible. Like, you won't even really notice it. So it's like out of sight, out of mind, and it'll be paid off in like, less than 6 years, I think. So that's great, because they're guaranteed for, I think, 25 years.
25 or 30.
So it'll be
Estimated life was.
Yeah.
I don't know about guaranteed, but we'll see.
20, 50, I mean, even if it's like 15 years of like free electricity, whatever. The only thing is that's completely out of our control is, the word's escaping me now, but Indiana changed the net metering, yes. So that's kind of terrible. And my major questions were about the financing, because when he was breaking down those numbers, a lot of it was like this tax credit and this tax credit, which I don't think we're not eligible for. But it would be how do we get those things? And also some of them, like the adders, I think they call them, I'm not sure that we're eligible for those, and I think a lot is based on that company and like where they source their stuff from. So I assume that they said we would be eligible for it, so they must source it correctly. But my understanding is like the panels you can source pretty easily and fit that, but it's the actual like meat of the thing that's hard to source domestically.
You're talking about the framing for the panels. The steel has to be American bought steel.
Yeah.
Or American, produced in American steel.
And that, I think, was the one that, like, that's fine, you can get that, but it's like the component parts were like harder. So I don't know, I just want to ask them, like, so you're sure, and the laborer, anyway, I just had questions about the financing stuff, mostly.
You said that there would be no batteries in this thing?
No batteries.
So,
Battery backup.
what are we going to be doing right now?
So that's it. You're still tethered to the electric company for those times when you're not producing all of your needs.
Well, most of the days, there's a couple of lights in town hall, and that's all. You know, there's not a lot of people in here.
So I think the reason that there's no batteries is because the batteries really add to the cost of the thing, and they don't have as
don't see how, because, like I said, most days you come in town hall, there's no lights on in this room. There's a light on in the utility office, and Mark's got a light on, and maybe,
Well,
you know, there's
The air conditioner may be on there. And the,
Heat.
you know, or the furnace is on and you're using that, which at that point, those panels are probably producing more than what you need. And I think maybe that's what your point is. Then there's gonna be the other times when it's night and they're not producing anything. And then but you don't have the excess that you would have accumulated in a battery. I think that's maybe what you're saying.
Yes,
Uh,
please say your name and,
Oh, Sue Kiger, 750 Shady Lane. What about the weight? I mean, this is an old roof. How much weight would it be?
That's a good question. I don't think those panels are really all that heavy, and the framework's probably not all that heavy, but that's a good question.
he was here, the gentleman, and he went up there. I mean, he
You know,
went all the way up there, he's so.
once
So-
we discover these questions we want to ask him, I think I want to present them to him, and then we need to bring him in here. If we decide to move forward on this,
Yeah,
we need to bring him in here and then find out more information from him as well.
I was up, to answer Sue's question, earlier in the spring, I was up there checking for water damage. I'd never really walked that whole attic up there. And then I went up on the roof, took a bunch of pictures. But the joists up there are like 3 by 14s, 3 inches by 14, and they're like in the Castle Hall up here that we used to own. They're every foot apart, or every 14 inches. I mean, you could probably put a tank on top of that roof. They're just, it's almost solid
So if we
wood
get a
up there.
helicopter, we could.
Helipad up there. But anyway, for those panels you're talking about, I would think there's no problem with
Older
that.
than a car.
he gave the thumbs up. He liked that idea.
I think so.
Sarah wrote
But he can check anyway.
Yeah,
He can
yeah,
check.
Really get
It's
your
worth
look
looking
at
at.
here too.
Don't even go there.
So, one of the, and speaking of the roof, that is one of my questions as well. I mean, eventually the roof will have to be replaced, right?
Well, the rubber on there was replaced not that many years ago, and it's a fantastic shape.
It looks amazing.
For a roof. I mean, it's great. It's probably a 80 more year roof or something.
Okay, well, that, I mean.
Now, as long as they put the things and seal them right and bond it in and everything, and but no, that's
So
one thing.
you're thinking the roof probably doesn't need to be replaced in the next 30 years?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I wouldn't think so.
Well, that's,
But I'm not a rubber roof expert either, but it looks pretty.
yeah, I would really like to see some realistic type ideas about, you know, how, when it's snowing out, there ain't no power coming out of that, you know, panels up there.
oh, when it's snowing, oh, you mean if there's no sunlight?
Right.
There'll be something coming out, even if it's during the day.
Depends on how many tax breaks and who pays for it, I guess.
The other thing I think we need to think about is how that might affect our insurance too.
Yeah. You can ask them.
Yeah, I mean, how could it possibly affect our insurance?
I mean, it's obvious the company is proposing this because they wanna make some money, and that's what they do, you know, but I don't blame them for that. I mean, that's what happens everywhere.
Well,
It's
so,
possible it could give you tax breaks because of the energy efficiency, but you just never know how an insurance company's gonna look at it either, so. But that's a good question. But there is a webinar, Ames putting out a webinar on tax credits about something similar to this, not about solar panels specifically. I didn't read it that closely, but I did think of you when I saw it. Try to forward you the email.
Has Frankfurt done anything with solar panels on their?
Not that I know of, but I haven't asked. So, yeah. I know that the utilities have not. I don't know about the rest of the city, but I can find out.
And didn't they do one of the well fields in Lafayette, put a big solar field in to power the,
I don't know.
power the pump?
I just saw a big solar field somewhere.
They have been, IMPA has been, and other electricity providers have been renting and putting in solar fields in well fields, because otherwise you can't do a whole lot with that. They aren't usually used to power the wells, they're usually used, like they will rent, instead of cash renting that ground, they will rent it for the purpose of the solar fields, and then they will generate income in the rental of that. They don't usually use it to power the wells, but rather just to make some income through the rental.
Where, Stan, maybe where you're thinking is if you go up to Bacardi, and then before you get to Crazy, the Circle K up there.
Right, yeah.
Has got all those brand new solar
That,
panels.
this is the company that did that.
Yeah, and obviously, they stay open late at night when there's no sun and everything like that, but they must have deemed that
Yeah.
the return is good enough to pay the.
So the net metering thing that she was talking about was when you generate more than what you need and you sell it back to the utility company. Now, the thing is, the way that they have got it set up is that doesn't work out very well. At least with Duke and the situation in the area we're at, because you have to sell it back to them at wholesale cost. You buy it at retail, which is 14 cents kilowatt hour. You have to sell it back to them at about 3 cents kilowatt hour wholesale. So your return on your investment just never works out. He's told me like there's states like in Kentucky where it's you sell it back to them for the retail amount, and those have got incredible payback periods of time. And anything that's generated above your needs, then basically is being banked back toward your future needs. But that's not the case because that's not how Duke is set up in this area.
Duke got the law changed for him here.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like Indiana, because I guess Indiana, according to what I've been reading, is such a coal state. So it's like, protect the coal, don't go solar. So that's a bummer. But I don't think it's like out of the question, even though it could be better.
The other thing, I want to look at the end of life of these things, and so I know this is something that Carla has a concern about is what happens with these panels, how are they recycled or whatever at that point. And I don't think there's anybody in Indiana that's doing recycling of those things right now. And they do have things in them that, are considered hazardous waste, I guess. But it's also the same things that are in a lot of the batteries for your power tools and so on, those things that you use. So, somewhere down the road, you need to be thinking about how that's gonna affect this town later on too. So those are some of the questions. And so again, I need to know if you guys want to find out more, then we will. If you want to can this thing, then we'll can it. But
I do not want to can it.
I mean, I have questions. I'm not on board like you are, but I'm not opposed to the idea. I've just got way more questions than you provided answers.
so you say on board like I am. I think it's worth exploring. Let's put it that way. I do have a lot of questions that I would like answered too. And what I'd really like you guys to do is to email me your questions. So when I give them to this guy, and then he can be ready to come in here and answer those decide we want to have him come make a presentation to us.
Or he could answer those questions and then we could ask him more. And then he could be ready to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's worth looking into. Don't cost nothing to ask questions.
Right, and that's all this has been, is just been exploring
Yeah.
a possible source of reducing our costs.
That's what
That's what I'm interested
neat idea, the payback warrants it, to find out. We'll give you some questions.
Okay, cool. So everybody get your questions to Mark. He's our guy. All right, almost done. TIF funds, the allocation of TIF funds. What do we know about that? We can use them, they can pay the town
So
back.
I looked at this, I emailed you about it, I
Yeah.
don't remember what I said. It's been 2 months, so let me pull up the email and I'll tell you. I
We
believe,
need the raise, who can get to it first?
yeah. I don't remember, it was.
According to my research, the RDC can use TIF funds for the payment of professional services relating to the allocation area, such as legal or accounting costs. The town of Dayton incurred, expenses the town of Dayton incurred in setting up this project were either attorney fees or financial advisor fees. I think that's correct, yes. If that's the case, it appears that the town would be able to request repayment from the RDC.
There you go, that's what I found out.
And I wanted all the money back, and then some of you said, hey, don't be so selfish.
No, I want all the money back, I just don't think.
Take it
for
on.
the first year that they get money, that all of that money that they get comes back to us. I think 50-50, I don't know what percentage of 50-50 the first year, figure out. But, I mean, what's the point of having an RDC? We have money coming in,
That's the question.
and then we take their money and they have nothing to do. We knew
Yeah.
the first few years they weren't gonna have a lot to do other than study and figure out what to do once money came in. Now they have money in, and then you wanna take it all away, and
Yeah.
I just think that's wrong.
Do you remember how much it was?
I think it's $25.
No, it wasn't. Stop it right now.
Oh, you mean how much we got,
How much we got? How much we got in?
How much? About $12,000.
12,000.
I agree with Carla, I think some kind of a split where that money comes in, the town gradually gets paid back, and you guys have the money to spend on unique projects or whatever.
Do we know what our expenses actually were to set up the RDC? Do we know what the total
A
was?
lot of money.
A lot of money.
I know it was quite a bit,
Right.
I never
Do
heard the
you,
actual
do you,
final number.
okay, so if you're gonna charge somebody for something, then you need to present them a bill. Why?
With interest.
Whatever you guys decide. But you
Yeah.
need to provide a bill, so have you got that information of what that is, instead of just saying, well, this is.
We
And then
did.
the RDC will have to have a meeting where we ask them for it, and then you all say, yeah, right? Is this how that will work?
Well, I mean, I think the council would need to decide how they're going to, because the RDC kind of serves at the pleasure of the council, right? So-
Give me my money or you're not gonna serve on the committee.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is this, you guys are gonna have to decide how you guys wanna do it and work it out with the RDC. I don't know that you can necessarily force them to do it because they're an independent board. On the flip side of that, you also did expend the funds to get it, and the statute says that you can collect that money.
So,
But we wanna work with them. The
50,
idea,
let's match the CCMG, we'll do 75-25.
and I disagree with that. The idea is that the money is coming in, and the RDC needs to be able to do something with those funds for the benefit of the town. And to take all of that is, I think, detrimental to the town in and of itself without letting them do what they wanna do. We wanna get along with them. The idea of having set up the board is having two boards that can work together to find what's gonna be good for the residents in this town. What's something that we can do? We can either fix something or build something, I don't know, I don't even know what ideas they might have. But the idea is that we work together on something, and yes, I think that the funds that were expended to set them up needs to be reimbursed to the town, but I don't think it all needs to be all in one fell swoop.
So
So
you're
how about the
50/50?
50/50 the first year and go from there?
And then let's see how much money comes in the next year, and if it's a lot less, then we could adjust the percentage. If it's a lot more, we can either keep it the same or still adjust the percentage. And just, I think, on a yearly basis, we just find out
So,
what's coming in, and
still my question is gonna be,
well, clearly we have to find out what,
Yeah.
we don't
Yes.
know what the total is.
And it can only be for those two, so they can be professional fees, and you need to make sure that they are for the purpose of the,
So do I just like pull invoices and just
Yeah.
like copy them and then give them to them and be like, I want you to pay these back? Or do we just give them a number and say,
I think you could do it a variety of ways. You can compile a list of the invoices and, kind of make a little spreadsheet of all the total dollar amounts when they were expended, that sort of thing. You could give him just written invoices. Did you hire like special counsel to do that, or was that just part of?
Yes. We had, our lawyer he billed us separately for
Okay,
RDC.
so that is
And then
separately
Ice
billed.
Miller and the
Right.
other people worked on it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can ascertain
break
though
it
from
out.
those bills,
yeah,
this was RDC. And
Yes.
so that's what I would do, is you can either grab those bills and just say, here are the totals, or you can create, kind of a list and say, if you want to
Okay.
inspect the
We'll
bills.
give
here's
you
the
a
balance.
list and then break it down. This one's 10.
and then we'll have it for the future to like
Yeah.
know, now you've paid this, now you've paid this.
Right.
Yeah,
Versus just giving them a number.
Right.
You might not be able to.
okay, moving on. Speaking of the redevelopment commission, we have appointments coming up. The town council gets to appoint 3, which is the majority of the council. How convenient for me. And then the town council will appoint 2. So I'm gonna appoint the 3 people that are gonna give me my money back. I'm gonna appoint Nancy Oswald, Mark Burmester, and Larry Heiser to our redevelopment commission. And then the council needs to appoint 2 others. Currently, the other 2 serving on the redevelopment commission are Vicky Beavers and Steve Schuley. I'd be totally fine with.
Fine with it.
Keep it everybody same so that.
Carla,
I think it's fine, yeah.
do these appointments need a motion, or is it good enough that I just set their name?
I think it's fine that you just appointed them. I don't
Okay.
think you need to vote on it.
Cool.
we need.
Everybody a thumbs up for Vicky and Steve for, yeah. Okay,
So there is a consensus though.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The most important item on the agenda I saved for last. I've heard from Santa. He is coming back to Dayton. Yep, he had so much fun last year. He's coming back. Marshall Taylor has his hat ready. He is going to lead our parade again. Yep, he's smiling. He's very excited about that. December 18th, Santa will be in Dayton. He will be escorted by the fire department again. And it's going to start at 2 o'clock. And he will have some helpers handing out wonderful somethings to everybody along the route. So the route is definitely going to be shorter than last time. I think, okay, it's not finalized, but I feel comfortable saying we aren't going to cross 38 to go down to Shady Lane, Wesleyan, or Baker Farms, because that was just too much and there weren't actually a lot of people waiting. So we're going to stay on this side, 38. But I'll get the route out as soon as it's complete. But everybody plan to see Santa in Dayton, December 18th. Going around on a fire truck.
You opening it up for other participants to participate in the parade last time, or I think you had some golf carts.
Last time we did have a golf cart because the elves that were helping pass things out so they could ride if they needed. Frosty came and borrowed Stan's golf cart and drove that around. That was very nice of you, like Frosty, use your golf cart. Last year it was the fire truck, our Mark's truck that had the sound system playing Christmas tunes. Yeah, with the trailer on it that had all of the goodies from Santa. And then there was, a golf cart. Do we want to open it up and let other golf carts, like, hey, you wanna decorate your golf cart and come along?
Christmas decorated golf carts allowed.
There may be somebody who wants to make a float.
That would be so fun. The only thing I'm slightly nervous about is like, I think it would be preferable if everybody was riding something instead of walking, because we do have walkers, like, we had elves that helped, Santa, he made us honorary elves to pass out his stuff. So we did have walkers last time, but I'm afraid if we get like, oh, yeah, a bunch of people want to be in this, and then they get too close to the things, and it got dark last time, there was a giant fire truck, and I just don't want anyone to get run over. So, can we make it a, please participate, but please ride on something, a golf cart?
You had a lot of people,
Yeah, there's a lot of people walking.
Like a lot, yeah.
Like I said,
Well,
You know,
Yeah, we started earlier in the day too.
Jen,
and I worry
most
about
of these
nothing.
things have people walking.
Yeah. They're smart enough not to walk under the tires.
and most of them, everybody was behind, well, the people off the fire engine, the fire department people handed out a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
and everybody else was, kind of behind them, so they weren't, I don't think they were.
Your route's shorter, so you're gonna not be quite as long, you're starting earlier in the day, so you're gonna be done before dark.
You could also separate them, have a golf cart that is the lead golf cart, have the walkers in front, nobody's past the lead golf cart, so that golf cart can kind of set the pace for the rest of the golf carts. And then the walkers stay up front, that person separates it.
Maybe Frosty would come back and do that.
I don't know, you might,
Do you have his contact information still?
I might have to look it up.
Okay, look it up. Look it up.
But-
Contact him.
I think you ought to put it down that golf carts need to be decorated in a Christmas theme.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so fun. Okay. Okay, that was a very important last agenda item besides public comment. Anything for public comment?
I'm all for Santa.
Santa! Perfect.
We got our tree up already.
Yay! We should have had light Christmas music playing in the background of our
Bring
meeting.
any presents?
Huh? Not yet.
Council comment, Mark, do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything.
Carla?
No.
It is Christmas.